In this video, I'm going to apply the definition of derivatives to find the definition of sine of x. It's a trig function, and you can apply this concept to cosine as well similarly. So let's start off with the definition of derivative, which is limit h approaches 0 f of x plus h minus f of x, all of it divided by h. That's the official definition of derivative of a function. Now, my y is equal to f of x, which is just sine of x, right? Sine of x. And then my f of x plus h is going to be just sine of x being replaced by x plus h. So, x plus h. Now, here I kind of want to remind you of a formula for sine that we will need to use. Sine of a plus b is equal to sine A, sine of angle A times cosine of angle B plus cosine of angle A times sine of angle B. So I'll use this formula to simplify this. Let me plug in these values, and then I get limit h approaches 0, sine of x plus h minus sine of x, sine of x, all of it divided by h. And now I'm going to simplify it. Upon simplification, this is what I get. So sine of x plus h, I can write it as this using this formula, sine of x cosine of h plus cosine of x sine of h, then minus sine of x, all of it divided by h. Now I take this term and break it down into two. So the first one is this. So I write cosine of x times sine of h divided by h, which is this. And then log between this one and this one, sine of x is common. So I factored out sine of x. Then I'm left with cosine of h from here and 1 from there. So it's going to be cosine of h minus 1. And all of it divided by h. Now using the limits property, I could break it down into two limits, right? Limit of the sum is sum of the limits, right? So that's gonna give me this. Now look, cosine of x does not have h dependence, so I just took it outside. And then I have limit h approaches 0, sine of h over h. And here also sine of x does not have any h dependence. So I take the sine of x outside of the limit. So limit h approaches 0, cosine of h minus 1 over h. Now this is something you're expected to know. Limit h approaches 0, sine of h over h is actually 1. So that's going to give me cosine of x times 1, which is just cosine of x, plus sine of x times the limit h approaches 0, cosine of h minus 1 over h. That, by the way, is actually 0. And that's something you have seen before. So this is an assumption I'm making that you know. So limit h approaches 0, cosine of h minus 1 divided by h is 0. So that kind of takes care of this term, which becomes 0. So I have cosine of x. So the derivative of this function, y is equal to f of x is equal to sine of x, is going to be y prime is equal to cosine of x. And using similar arguments, you can actually find the derivative of cosine of x. As opposed to finding the derivative of sine of x, you could find the derivative of cosine of x. I hope that this discussion was helpful. Thank you so very much.